about intersectionality if you have not engaged literature, because they, in the 4 years of public school, they will never hear such a word called intersectionality. You're not going to understand people's sexuality because you have another way of understanding these things. And influenced by tradition, the only school you have is the one of public school, but which does not include people's lived experience. Like I said, Godwin said, it's a domination, it's indoctrination to the white man, so that it becomes that. You will only understand, for instance, how would you explain the violence as inflicted by men to women, if we had a basic understanding that there is no greater man in the world that did not come from a woman? If we're taught that, if that was the basic knowledge that we're taught in school, that in this entire world, with all the great men that you have your Sobukwe, Robert Sobukwe, the greatest men, some call them prophets, you have Kwame Nkrumah, you have Thomas Sankara, you have Julius Nyerere, you have all these greatest men that have ever lived in this world, including Baldwin, But if the basic understanding of all these men summed up is that there is none of them that did not come from a woman, then from that basic understanding, if that was the knowledge that had been taught at school, then it means then you appreciate women better. In fact, woman becomes your God. That becomes your first God, because that becomes the first reflection. First contact with God was with your mother. That becomes from that understanding. But I mean, literature is central in a sense that a few years ago I was unable to speak the language I speak. Until I discovered, I encountered literature. Then I was able to say, through Professor Pumla Ngola, say, okay, this is what is actually meant by intersectionality. To be able to appreciate humans, in all their diversity, to be able to appreciate humans in different shades, blackness itself, so to be able to appreciate it better. So I think that as part of you have some of what you call Afrophobia, but because of lack of engagement with literature, and people perpetuate, and people hate themselves. In fact, we have to deal with our own hate, but that cannot happen. It must happen in a silent zone where you are engaged with the literature, only have consumed the literature before you are engaged with society. Therefore, you can be able to deconstruct social constructs, and I think that's a process of decolonizing the mind. It does not happen outside of literature. So I think literature is very central to understanding these societal phenomena.
So in closing, do you then think that the Men Are Trash movement has kind of inspired a fruitful dialogue?
I think I don't know about fruitful dialogue, because I don't think that revolt is meant to be fruitful. Because in my understanding that the Men Are Trash, it is a revolting statement, and it has gained, for instance, we're talking about it now. We wouldn't be talking about it if it has not gained, captured the audience's imagination. And I think that for me, it's just only a beginning, because the point is not necessarily really, in my understanding, to capture people's imagination necessarily, but is to go beyond that, that the society needs to shift from where it's standing and to begin to imagine the world anew, I think really that the outrage in the country, it's really based on fragile masculinity, because if we were to go back in the archives and we're to look at, for instance, what I spoke about, the history of feminism in London, I mean, I don't think men in South Africa or in Africa as a whole, they will be able to survive that kind of protest. Because I mean, for the longest time, people in South Africa, because we don't read, because we're not engaged with the world, I think people in South Africa, they think this is the worst scenario of a protest. I think this is a very genuine statement. It's a very, for me, it's not as big as people make it, because it's just a statement, really. It's a hashtag. But I think people in London, feminists in London, they took it on the streets to even challenge and confront men. I think at London they had an extreme, way of dealing with this, which is it was not bad at all. Because I mean, you have to confront your own oppressor. You cannot be given freedom. Freedom is not something that you are given or granted. It's something that you take. You earn dignity. You don't demand. No one gets granted dignity. Yeah. Something that you earn, and freedom also is the same thing. So in London, there was also, it went as far as to say, after the protest, women said, how do we then go back to our enemies, which is their husbands? You know, and said, it doesn't make sense to protest and then go back to enemies. I think that conversation came from the fact that the very same men are refusing to change, you know, in society. But the issue is that the world, patriarchy is not an individualistic thing. So it's impossible for you to be patriarchal as a man and for me to not be patriarchal as a man in a patriarchal society. I mean, no man is excluded from patriarchy in a society. So patriarchy is a societal issue. You know, it's not a political issue. There's no organization that is patriarchal than the other, or there's no church that is patriarchal than the other. You know. Wherever men are, they exist patriarchy. Because the society itself is a patriarchal society. So it's a societal disease, just like racism is a disease. But again, we must understand the fact that patriarchy is built on the dominance of women. Therefore means that despite of misunderstanding of how the world is, or you know, how the world is running from the woman's side, but the woman, for me, my purpose, women cannot be patriarchal. You know, it's like men crying for and saying someone is being sexist to me. It's impossible. You can't as a man cry that there's sexism. There's sexism. Someone is sexist to me. You know, it doesn't make sense. It's the same thing that to women as well. You know, as a dominated body in a society that you do not necessarily own. You know, it doesn't make sense for one to say you are also patriarchal or you are patriarchal princess. You know, but because patriarchy privileges men in a society. And we might say that, you know, you have been miseducated and all that, misunderstanding from the side of a woman. That's the excuse that virtually men are looking for, which is not the excuse that belongs to them. You know, as men we are looking for the excuse to say, no, we don't know in all that, you know, these excuses don't belong to us. You know, because as much as we don't know, but the world privileges us. What we know are privileges, but we don't know necessarily how they come about and all that. That excuse, the only excuse that belongs to a woman who necessarily has been raised from a traditional family that is patriarchal, or from a church, patriarchal church and all that, you know. So I think really that the outrage from the men are trash is nonsensical from us as men, because it really is nothing. If we were to read the history of the world, we'll find that it's really nothing. And we'll read people in London, women in London, they left their children and husband as a means of revolt, and they took a decision and said, from now on, no, date men. And they dated other women in the movement. This is a revolt that they had to undertake. Now, why would you think that would be fun? Why would someone then choose to take such a position to say, I'm going to leave my children and husband, you know, and just for fun, because it's fun, or because I want to poke men? You know, I think it's ridiculous to think like that way. You know, I think we're not appreciating women as not just women, but as part of the family, because these are mothers. Hence I said that, you know, education becomes very important, because if the basic understanding was that there is no greater man, including myself, that did not come from a woman, then the world will be in harmony.